Babashuaib, the correctional officer, born in Accra, Ghana, a Quranic researcher and a critical thinker based on religion, who does online lectures based on the guidance of the Quran on platforms such as Facebook, YouTube and TikTok since 2018. In Finland, and 13 years, QBE, in Classical Arabic and MSA in Quranic Arabic. The author of the Refertothekoran, which helps every novice to understand the steps towards understanding the Great Quran and the guidance of God in it.
Yeah. So what do we have here? Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Peace be upon you all. Thank you for coming. This is my page, babashuaib, the correctional officer. Let me change this light and see. Yeah. This one should be okay. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. See this down here. Is it? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes, now we can start. Yeah. Yeah, assalamu alaikum to you all. Peace be upon you all. This is babashuaib, the correctional officer. Yeah. I had to skip the time a bit forward earlier on because I had to get something done here on time. But anyways, I'm finally here. So thank you all for coming. This is babashuaib, the correctional officer. I'm streaming live from TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Right? So those on TikTok also kindly share so other people can join. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate that. And kindly share so other people can join us as well. So let me give some shout outs to those who are here. We have Abdul Abbas. We have, is it Sahad Tools? Or is it Sahad Tools? Okay, maybe he wrote it in maybe Somali language, so I cannot pronounce it well. Or it is Sasad or something. Then we have Sister Alma Johnson. We have Tawfiq Ibrahim, Momadi Pedro, Fatima Chin, Kam K. Yeah, that is Kamal, right? Oh, Kamal. We have Charitable Citizen. We have Rashid Soibrati. We have Dangana and Dagi. We have Tawfiq Muhammad Ibrahim. We have Muhammad Ashari Abdul Rahim, Marwan Divaj, Kaisar, that is Sister Zainab. I see you. We have Book of Huda, Alaj Hatal Mahmoud, I see you. Musa Seidu, Khalil Ibn Bilal, Diana Neobruna, Abu Bakr Muhammad, Tijani, Ayivo Ibrahim Donko. We have RP, we have Salam, Sister Stusi. Thank you all for coming. Let me share to my group. Baba Sedu Salis, Mawia, all of you, Sister Rashida. I know you'll be joining on later. But if you are those who are present, kindly share so other people can join as well. Let me share this to my WhatsApp group for those who are there, and then they can hop on, and then we move on. Yeah, so kindly share so other people can join, and let's deal with the topic of today, right? Most of the most of the questions people are asking, they are questions I've already tackled, right? I've already spoken about before, but however, it seems they've not come across it before, so this is the time they are seeing it, right? So thank you all for coming. For those on TikTok also, let me see. Those on TikTok. Hey, I see you, Gloria. Yeah, I see you. Is it Gladys, right? Yeah, I see you. Let me see. We have Senu Abdul Hakim. Yeah, peace, salam. Yes, I see you today. Today. You have your name Nyakio. Today you caught me on TikTok, huh? Mm. Yeah, thank you. Anyways, shout outs to those on TikTok. Let me see. Thanks for the gifts. I see Banan Hama says good evening. Good evening. Afalata Kilo, I see you. I see you all. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate your presence. Let's get on to the topic of today. It's a question and answer section. Yeah. I see your name on TikTok. Yes. So Vekis also, thanks for the gift. Yes, Senu, you can ask questions. I'm going to tackle some of the questions I've been asked earlier first. Then after that, I give the chance to ask subsequent questions. However, I might be staying a bit, extra for TikTok, right? Thank you very much for the gift. I appreciate that, Nyakio. Nyakio. Thank you for the gift. Anyways, let's go on to the topic. So I'm streaming live on TikTok, on Facebook, and YouTube at the same time, simultaneously at the same time. So you can see, as usual, this is the correctional officer t-shirt, babashuaib. That's a logo, that's a t-shirt, and you can see usually when I'm online, I have this matching outfit, right? So the cap is available for grabs. But on the correctional officer page at correctionalofficer.myspread, I think I have the website here. For those on Facebook, YouTube, that is the link, right? There is 20% discount offer ongoing now, and it's last till on the 5th of November. So there's 20% discount. I don't know if actually the website actually ships to the US and Canada, but for those there, you can try if you're interested. But however, for those based in Europe and other side of the world, you can yeah, Kio, thank you. So that is the shirt. We have it in different colors, all sizes. It's unisex. There's men, there's women, there's boys, there's girls, for everybody, right? Available. Support the movement, and let's set the mushriks ablaze. Let's confuse them. Let's put some terror and fear inside their conscience. Yeah. So this is my way I invite to Allah by perception. I and whoever follows me, and glory be to Allah, for I am not among the mushriks, right? Idris Sumani, salam. Thank you all. Yeah, thank you, Sister Alma. Yes, marching, red outfit. Yes. Thank you very much. So we go on. We move on. We've already wasted some time, so let's move on. However, I've bookmarked or pinned some of the questions I've been asked right now. I've pinned it down. But however, for those, if you are in Finland, you should be able to get it. Anyways, when you meet me, I'll give you the link to it. Don't worry. Anyways. Yes, Book of Huda says good content you made on different scholars. I have yet to go through all of them. Yeah. I have a content on the scholars, the modern day scholars. I have content on them. Salam, Salis Jimmy, I see you. Okay, thank you. Book of Huda. You know, the mushriks will always bring up a story, right? Book of Huda says, Baba, don't you know there is a hadith which says you can't wear all red? Yeah, these people are, you know, they are psychopaths. They can always come out with with this hibby-jibbies type of doctrine. Anyways, hey, Sayyid Adam, I see you. Salam, bro. Sayyid Adam. Uh, uh, yeah, it's okay now. Let me concentrate to the topic. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate that. Don Ismail, thank you all for coming. If you have any question, please kindly reserve it for later on, right? This might take up to 2 hours section. So kindly reserve it so that I don't get distracted in order for me to answer the questions on time. The first question is, a brother was asking a question based on Quran chapter 11, verse 7, right? So I'll put the verse on the screen and let's see what happens. Based on Quran chapter 11, verse 7. Okay, so then I'll share the screen, but unfortunately for those on TikTok, you cannot see the screen unless if you rewatch the playback later on Facebook or YouTube, right? So for those on YouTube and Facebook, here you go. That is the screen for you, right? So a question was asked based on Quran chapter 11, verse 7, right? And then it states, and he is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. His throne is upon water, so that he may test you, which of you is best indeed. And if you, that is talking to a second person pronoun, that is you, singular. If you say, indeed, you will be resurrected after death. Like if you, the singular person, is telling the people that you will be resurrected after the death, those who have disbelieved will say, this is only clear sorcery, because they think only sorcery can let something, you know, come back, right? So the questioner was asking, he said, his throne is or was. Can you elaborate maybe on next question and answer session, right? So now, the verse says, and he is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. Now remember, just as it says in Quran chapter 22, Surah Al-Hajj, right? A day at God is 1,000 of the years you count. Like a day, one day with God is 1,000 of the years which you count. Right? The verse is chapter 11, verse 7. Right? He is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. So these 6 days, we know a day at God is 1,000 years of which we count. Right? Wait, just a second. Just a second here. I need to put something here. Just a minute. Right? Okay. Let's continue. Okay. So he, God, is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. It says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ فِي 6 أَيَّامٍ. So this sittati ayyam, this 6 days, what you need to understand is based on Quran chapter 22 verse 47, right? A day at God, this al-yawm, 1 day at God, according to the way God counts, 1 day at him is 1,000 years of what we count, right? 1,000 years. 1 day at God is 1,000. So now, he said he is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, right? Sittati ayyam. Then he says, Wakana arshuhu alal ma'i. Now, this kana has been used. So the questioner was asking, this is the question. The questioner was asking, his throne is, or is it is or was? He wants to know if it is based on is or was, right? Because he's having this, misunderstanding on this, right? But let's check the context. Should we take it literally, or can it be taken non-literally? Like I was saying the other day, if you take Quran chapter 14, verse 1, Surah to Ibrahim, chapter 14, verse 1, God says he has sent down the book in order for the messenger to bring the people out of the darknesses into the light, meaning by using the book, right? Now, so the other day I was explaining that it's not every verse or every statement you see in the Quran that should be taken literally, right? You have to understand the non-literal aspect of the verse. So for instance, if God is saying in Quran chapter 14 verse 1 that the book is supposed to bring you out of the darknesses into the light, it is not talking about literally like darkness, literal darkness. For instance, if I'm in the room right now, and the lights go off, if the lights go off and I take a book, the book cannot give me light for me to go out and walk through the door. The book, there's no light in this book. Literally, there's no light. I need to find a torchlight, literally, a torchlight to find my way, right? I'm ready, Yakio. So I need to find a light, right? A physical light, literally, to touch in the darkness and find my way and go. Do you understand? But even though the verse is talking about the book is bringing you out of the what? Darknesses into the light. So like I said, it's not everything you read in the Quran that should be taken literally, right? So you have to understand the non-literal aspect of it. So if you have the non-literal aspect of it, that is when you get to understand the other side of it. To understand, okay, this is what God intended, not that way, right? Okay. Because, for instance, if you ask a person, where is the throne of God? Let's go and search for it. Let's go to the ocean. Let's go to the Atlantic Ocean. Let's go to the Antarctic. Let's go in Antarctica, right? Let's go and check. Is it there? Let's go to Mediterranean Sea and go and check. Is it on the ocean or is it? You understand? Then you'll be fooling yourself, right? So the main aspect is the person wanted to know, does it say is or was? No, it still is, but it is not talking about literal, like a throne, the physical throne where you go and see it on the throne. When the Quran mentions Arsh, the throne of God, is like the dominion. It's like being the power, like the power. For instance, God created every living thing with water, right? Every living creature from water. And when we say water, every living thing existing has to procreate through what? Liquid, right? We procreate through liquid. And that is why every living creature has blood inside them, right? So now, he is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. His throne is upon water, right? Water. So now, when we check the other aspect of it, if you take, yes, I did receive the gift. Thank you for the gift. Now, if you check another aspect of water, water takes about 70% of the earth, right? Now, if I tell you water is more powerful than everything in this universe, or water, just like they say water is life, right? Now you have to understand this concept from another perspective instead of just focusing on the literal aspect. There is more to it than you can imagine. Do you get my point? And that is why you go to a barren land and God keep talking about water, water. Anytime there's a barren land, God brings down water, and then all of a sudden there's life. And God uses water to do a lot of amazing things, right? Unique things, amazing things. Now, understanding this side of the verse away from the literal aspect, it will make more sense to you than just saying, okay, since because he says his throne is upon water, so let's go and find the throne. So it is upon the water still, that is his power, because for every king, the throne symbolizes your power, right? The power, right? So if you take the other aspect, the non-literal aspect of the verse, you get to understand it in a broader concept. So the kana there used there is it's not a past tense. It's still there, right? His power is upon. So that he may test you, which of you is best indeed. So, and if you should say, or if you say indeed, you people will be resurrected after death, those who have disbelieved will say, this is only clear sorcery. So the questioner, based on what the questioner was asking, the questioner wanted to know the can I use there, is it in the past tense or in the present tense? Yes, it is in the present tense and it's present continuous. It is still that way, right? But the verse itself, you have to look at the verse in a non-literal aspect, not literal aspect. We cannot just go to the water or ocean and find the throne of God. This is the water here. I don't see any throne, like a physical throne for God sitting here or something. No, but it has to show the power of God, right? And in a lot of spiritual aspects, those who understand, how will I say? I would say mystics, those who have a mysticism, or in the spiritual world, a lot of people know how powerful water can be used to do a lot of things, right? Even some people can curse you using water. Yeah. So let's go to the second question. Let me see here. Just a second. Yeah, Kamar, I've pinpointed your question. I'll be coming back to it, right? Okay. Salam to all those who are joining. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you, Gladys, for the gift. I appreciate it. Thank you for I got your gift. Yes. So let's continue. Okay. So the second question is, somebody says, I'm trying to understand chapter 4, verse 101. It talks of shortening of prayer, right? The person says it talks of shortening of prayer. So the person is trying to understand chapter 4, verse 101. That is Surah An-Nisa, right? So let's check the verse. Chapter 4, verse 101. Oh, sorry. In Quran chapter 4, verse 101, it says, and whenever you travel through the land, there is no blame on you. And it's talking to you in terms of a plural sense, not to the believers at the time. So it's talking to the plural form of people, not just a singular form. So, and whenever you travel through the land, there is no blame on you in case you shorten. Taksuru. Taksuru can mean kasaru, to decrease something, to reduce something, right? So you shorten from the salat. You shorten or you decrease from the salat, right? Then it says, and if you fear, that is if you fear that those who disbelieve may rout you, right, or may cause any disturbance to you, or try to cause any chaotic issues with you. Indeed, the disbelievers are clear enemies to you. So the person wants to understand about this verse. Now, however, When you connect this verse to the down verse, you get to understand what is going on, right? So the verse above here, and whenever you travel through the land, is telling you that when you are traveling, and then there happens to be an issue where disbelievers can cause any chaotic scene with you, or can even fight with you, can cause a rout with you. What needs to be done is you have to shorten from the salat, or you have to decrease or reduce from the salat. So this is what it says. There is no blame on you in case you shorten from the salat. Not the shorten the salat, but shorten from the salat. So I give an example. Let's say I have a food, right? And I say reduce from the food, reduce something from the food. When you are reducing, it doesn't mean, for instance, it doesn't mean it's a fixed number of the food inside is a fixed number that you have to take. If I say reduce or shorten something from it, I'm not giving you a direct number or a fixed number, because most of the time people have this understanding, this concept in their head that when it says taksuru min salat, it means, according to them, meaning if it is 4 raka'at, you do 2 raka'at. That is not what this verse is signifying here, right? Remember, Quran chapter 16 verse 89, God says, وَنَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ تِبْيَانًا لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ. The book was revealed or has been revealed to serve as a clarification for all things. So there is no exception, right? And when I say all things, it's concerning the things that God has spoken about. Quran chapter 6 verse 115. God says, وَتَمَّتْ كَلْمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا لَا مُبَدِّلَ لِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. So the word of your Lord is complete in truth and justice. Already, it's complete and in truth and justice. So then God has given you the book, which is to serve as a clarification for all things, right? So this verse on its own is a clarification on its own, doesn't need any extra understanding, complex understanding to it. So I'll be connecting it to the verse below, then you get to understand the concept. And whenever you travel through the land, there is no blame on you in case you shorten from the salat, right? Now, shortening from the salat, I'll be taking you to chapter 2, verse 238 to 239 to show you that concept of what God is talking about in chapter 2, verse 238 to 239. But however, if we take this verse on its own, where God says, وَإِذَا ضَرَبْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ فَلَيْسَ عَلَيْكُمْ جُنَاحٌ أَن تَقْصُرُوا مِنَ الصَّلَاةِ إن خفتم أن يفتنكم الذين كفروا إن الكافرين كانوا لكم عدوا مبينا. So God says, and whenever you travel through the land, there is no blame on you in case you shorten from the salat. Shorten from the salat. So let's say, if the salat can take me 10 minutes, or let's say 15 minutes or 20 minutes to do the salat, but because there is a disturbance, or there is somebody trying to cause a chaotic scene with you, what happens? You can shorten from the salat. It's not like you are shortening the salat. You shorten from. So if there is something that you do in the salat which takes a longer time to finish, in that sense, you shorten something from it. This is the example here. So let's say you are doing the salat. And let's say if I'm doing the salat, usually I take much time in the ruku or sujud, right? Or I take longer time, doing the supplications. Now, in this scenario, when I'm traveling, and let's say I get somewhere and I just want to do my salat, what happens is I will not get the same composure to do the salat the way I can do it whilst I'm at home. You understand me? So in that sense, you have to shorten from the salat. You are shortening something. So shortening from the salat. So it could be when you are doing the salat, instead of going that usual 15 minutes, 20 minutes you have been doing, you shorten it down. Do you understand? It will not, prolong it anymore. Then there's another scenario whereby Shortening from the salat is whenever you are doing your salat and you have to do the standing, you have to do your ruku'i, you have to do your sujud. Shortening from the salat, some aspect of this part can be taken out. You shorten from it, right? There's no problem with that. Because I'm going to show you a verse where you can do your salat whilst you are walking or riding. So this, which means if I'm walking, I don't get the chance to do ruku. I don't get the chance to do sujud. I can only be doing zikr. And then if I'm riding, let's say I'm sitting in the bus or I'm sitting in the aeroplane. For people who travel a lot, right? You know, right? If you're traveling and you are in the aeroplane, tell me, how will you get the chance to be standing and doing your salat? And so what you need to do is you shorten from the salat. So instead of getting to stand and do ruku and do sujud, what you have to do is when you do your washing, your ghusl, after ghusl, what you need to do is come and sit down and do your zikr. So I'm going to show you a verse where shortening from the salat, you can actually do zikr and is part of the salat, right? That is if you're traveling through the land and you think that wherever you want to stand to do your salat, it will cause a disturbance, or you think some disbelievers don't understand what they are doing, so they will try to disturb you, then safety first. You can do it by walking or by riding, right? The reason why God mentioned riding is because at that time when the Quran was revealed, it's about riding. But yes, you can ride, right? Even in the sheep, God used the word rakab. Like rakab means to ride a sheep. But we all know in the sheep, we don't use the word like that, right? So now it says, going to Quran chapter 2, verse 238 to 239. Before I come to this verse below, many a times what the mushriks, what they do is they try to say that this shortening from the salat God mentioned here, the down below means that is the shortening. And that's not what God says in that verse below here. How the Quran explains things is, if you want to understand how the Quran clarify topics and issues, it is not always in line when you read something and then always you get the context below. Not always in the Quran like that. Sometimes you have to jump from a chapter to another chapter to get the understanding. It is not always you read verses in the Quran and then you think you read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and you have the context. No. I can give you an example. For instance, if you read Quran chapter 97, verse 1, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Now, that verse started by mentioning a pronoun, and yet you don't have a noun. It never mentioned a noun in the first word. It mentions a pronoun. It says, indeed, Inna anzalnahu. Indeed, we revealed it or we sent it down. We sent what? The question is what? So if you have to read only that chapter, where is the context? You can read it up to downside. You can only be assuming, because the inna anzalnahu, the who used there is a masculine pronoun. So you have to read another chapter and another chapter to get the answer. Where do you get it? You go to Surah Al-Dukhan, chapter 44. You read from verse 1 to verse 6. Then you can get that it's talking about the book. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil mubarak. So this laylatul mubarak is still the same laylatul qadr, that God revealed the book, right, in the blessed night or in the night of destiny. Do you get that point? So sometimes you have to jump from a chapter to another chapter to get a clarification. Sometimes you can get the same answer in the same chapter. What I want to remind you is, unlike Quran is unlike the books we've been reading made by people. When the book is made by a human being, yes, it has to follow a norm or a rule that we set for ourselves. You understand? But this is the book coming from God. You don't expect it to go in line with your understanding of, how texts work always. No, it doesn't work that way. Quran is one of the amazing books that you can take and start reading from down the last verse of the chapter and coming up, and it still makes sense. I'm serious. You can try it and see. Take any random chapter, start reading from the verse below and go up. It will still make sense to you. Right? So now, let me take you to this verse before I come back to read the 102. So I take you to Quran chapter 2, verse 238. Let's see what God says. Now, in this verse, God says, Hafizu ala salawat wa salat al-wusta wa qumu lillahi qanitin. So God says, observe the salat, the litanies, together with the middle salat, right? And stand obediently before God. So salat encompasses standing. So this is a command from God. When it comes to salat, you have to stand before God, right? Obediently, you have to stand. It's about standing. So some people will say, oh no, salat is not a physical act. I don't need to do, to stand anything. But this is the command God is saying. God says we should have to stand obediently before God. If you want to tell me the standing is not literally, do you believe in the day of judgment also we stand before God? If you say yes, then this is here. Let me help you here. If you say yes, on the day of judgment, you stand in front of God. I take you to Quran chapter 83, verse 6. In chapter 83, verse 6, this is what God says. God says, Yawma yakumu nasu li rabbil alameen. The day mankind, the people, will stand before the Lord of the worlds. So now, if anybody tells you there's no physical act of standing in the salat, just ask them, why? Why can't we stand in the salat? Why? Because they will try to twist and say, no, it's not literal. You don't need to stand. Well, that is your opinion. You believe what you believe. We also believe what we believe. But we can prove what we say. So the day mankind will stand before the Lord of the worlds. Quran chapter 83, verse 6. So when we go back to Quran chapter 2, verse 238. So salat encompasses standing before God, right? It doesn't mean you are just standing just in front of God because you can see God. No, that is not what we are saying, right? So the point is, God says, observe the salat together with the middle salat. Observe the salat together with the middle salat. And stand obediently. And that is why the word obedient is added. And stand obediently before God. Then it goes, verse 239. Then it says, God says, for in khiftum. So you see the fear here. It just explains what was mentioned in Quran chapter 4, verse 101. Do you remember when God says, when you are traveling through the land, right? And if you fear that the disbelievers will rout you, right? Will disturb you, will cause any fitna with you. If you fear. So now God is making it easy for you. You see, usually the salat you have to do by standing, right? You have to do by standing. And for people who don't believe there's standing in the salat, again, let me go back and show you another verse before I come back to this. If you go to Surah Al-Jumu'ah, Quran chapter 62, verse 9, when you read up to verse 11, right? The context here, these three verses, the context is about salat. That's a salat. It's not salat al-Jumu'ah. Now, this is what the last verse says. God says, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا تِجَارَةً أَوْ لَهْوًا. Then he says, إِنْفَدُوا إِلَيْهَا وَتَرَكُوكَ قَائِمًا. Right? What his people usually do is, when he invites them to the salat, that they have to come on the day of congregation, Yawm al-Jumu'ah, what they do is, when they see a business or an entertainment, they rush to it and leave him standing. They leave him qa'iman, standing, because the salat has to do with the standing posture as well, where you have to stand before God. You are standing before God because remember, salat is for zikrullah. Quran chapter 20, verse 14. The salat, we establish salat for the zikrullah. Okay, so you see the standing there. So these people, they leave the prophet standing and they rush to their businesses and their sales, right? They leave him standing, even though he's there establishing the salat for them. So now I'll take you back. So when we go to Quran chapter 2, verse 238, and I read up to 239, you get to understand what I'm saying here. So we stand before God obediently. Now, verse 239, and if you fear, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ, then it says, فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُقْبَانًا. And if you fear, then by walking, that's salat, When you connect these two verses, if you fear, then you do the salat by walking. Whilst you're walking, you can do salat. Somebody will say, then how can I do the standing? How can I do the ruku? How can I do the sujud? No, you can shorten from the salat. It is allowed. That is because you are in the position of fear. I've had countless of messages where people will tell me, brother, if I'm at work, how can I do the salat? If you are at work and you think the boss will fire you because he doesn't want you to do the salat, just tell him you are going to the washroom. Just go and do the ghusl. Come back. You can be doing your zikr whilst you're walking. It's still allowed. Yes. So this is not me saying. This is God saying. And if you fear, then by walking or by riding. So even if you are in the aeroplane, you are in the bus, you are in the car, so far as you have done the ghusl, you can do your salat by doing the zikr, and I will show you, right? Then God says, and when you are safe. But the moment you are safe, let's say you are not at work, let's say you are not at a place where people will disturb you, then God says, when you are safe, then commemorate God, do the zikr of God as he has taught you. Oh, so God can teach us, huh? Oh, God can teach us. But I thought the mushrik are saying that God cannot teach us. It is their garbage books which has to teach us everything about Islam. So as he has taught you, that which you did not know. So what did God teach us? He just taught you what you need to do. The salat, you have to stand obediently before God. He taught you. He is telling you here. God is the one telling you what to do. The salat encompasses standing obediently before God. Yes, it's part of the salat also. Right? He just taught us right now. We didn't know that. So now, but if you fear, then he said you can do the salat by walking or by riding. And when you are safe, then commemorate God. You have to now commemorate him as he has taught you. And he just taught us. We saw it. He wants you to stand before him and commemorate him, because we know the salat is for zikrullah. Quran chapter 20 verse 14, where he told Musa, innani anallah la ilaha illa ana fa'budni wa akimi salat li zikri. So you establish the salat for the zikrullah. Right? So standing is part of the salat. That is why in Quran chapter 62 verse 9 to verse 11, when the prophet invited his people for the salat on the day of Jumu'ah, what they did is they will go to their entertainment and their business and they leave him standing. Whilst he's standing, whilst establishing the salat, they will just leave him and go. Not all of them do, but most of them will do that. Now, so now you can see that these two verses I gave you here, Quran chapter 2, verse 238 to 239, it is telling you that the salat can be done if you are in fear. You can do it whilst you are walking or riding. So from today, any intelligent person, listen to me. I don't want you to be doing tariqus salat. It is stupid. It is foolishness for you to do anything called tariqus salat. When you hear anybody saying tariqus salat, it means salat you have left behind. How can you foolishly leave God on the side and you're thinking about your worldly life? The only thing that can stop you from doing salat is when you are actually intoxicated or sleeping. That is the only two things that can stop you. Other than that, what else stop you from doing salat? Your business? That's dangerous. The same God who gave you the business can collapse your business. What stopped you from doing salat? Your children? Why can't you do your salat whilst you are with your kids? You can do your salat. It's about zikr. What did God say? If you fear, so if you are with kids and you are scared that if you go to wash to go to salat, they will be killing themselves, then what you have to do is do your ablution, do your ghusl. When it's ready, you can just be with the kids and you are doing your zikr. Yes, because you fear something might happen. Listen to the statement God says. Quran chapter 2, verse 239. And if you fear, you understand? If you fear, okay. Now, so addressing the question that I was asked, the person is asking about shortening of the salat. So that actually is the shortening from the salat. So now I will take you to Quran chapter 4, verse 102 to show you how the prophet led his people to the salat. So this is the prophet leading for the salat. So I'm going to read the verse to the middle side of the verse of the chapter. Then you get to understand what I mean, right? So this is what God says. God says, وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمُ الصَّلَاةِ. Then he says, وَلْتَكُمْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ مَعَكَ. Then he says, وَلْيَأْخُذُوا أَسْلِحَتَهُمْ. فَإِذَا سَجَدُوا فَلْيَكُونُوا مِنْ وَرَائِكُمْ. Then he says, وَلْتَأْتِي طَائِفَةٌ أُخْرَى لَمْ يُصَلُّوا فَلْيُصَلُّوا مَعَكَ. You see here, up to this side. So now what does the translation say? The translation says, and when you, Muhammad, that is the second person pronoun, right? And when you, Muhammad, you are among them, among the believers, then establish the salat for them, right? He has to establish it for them. Then he says, and let a faction of them stand with you. Remember, the salat, he being the first Muslim during his time, not all time, during his time, he has to first practice whatever he has been told before calling people. So when you go throughout the Quran, even the times for the salat, it was actually instructed to the prophet, to the messenger first, before God telling us any other thing. Right? So if you go to Quran chapter 11, verse 114, the verse was talking to the prophet. Akimi salata tarafa'in nahar wa zulafan min al-layl. Chapter 17, verse 78 to 79. Akimu salat liduluki shams ila gasaki al-layl wa Quran al-fajr inna Quran al-fajr kana mahshuda. Then he says, wa min al-layl fathajjadu bihi nafilatan laka asa an yabathaka rabbuka makaman ma'muda. Right? So that is Quran chapter 17, verse 78 to 79. So all these instructions were directed to the prophet directly first, right? So he has to establish. So here there's no mistake. God saying, when you are among them, then establish the salat for them. There's no mistake here, right? Because he has to lead the salat. Okay. Then it says, and let a faction of them stand with you, because what? During that time, the context clearly shows you that there are believers who have their weapons and they are ready to defend when the enemy is going to attack. Right? Now, so it says, and let a faction of them stand with you. They stand with him. Right? It's just like if I say, walk with me. You can be walking with me, but you are behind me, or you are on my side. There's nothing wrong. Right? Okay. Then it says, and let them take their weapons, right? And when they have what? Prostrated, when they have shown their submission, just as is mentioned in Quran chapter 19, verse 58, right? Then let them be behind you, right? They will be behind him. That is behind the group, those with the weapons. They will be behind, guarding those who are doing the salat, right? And let the other faction who have not done their salat, prayed, what do they have to do? Come. So the other ones who were guarding this group, they will now come forward to come and join the prophet and do the prayer. So that is when it says, and let them pray with you. That is the second person pronoun, ma'aka. Now, and let them take their precaution and their weapons. That is the other group who have already done their salat. Now, what you understand from this verse is, inside this verse, in order to understand the verse above, before coming to the verse below, see what happened. You can see here, it says, and whenever you travel through the land, there is no blame on you in case you shorten from the salat. That is, if they travel through the land. So if you're traveling through the land, you can shorten from the salat. It doesn't say shorten the salat. There's a difference. Not shortening the salat, but shortening from the salat. And I've shown you how to do that, right? Okay. So that is based on the question the person was asking. He says, I'm trying to understand Surah 4, verse 101. It talks of shortening of the salat. That is shortening from the salat, actually. Now, yeah, let me save this question. I'll be coming back to that later. Okay. Yeah, salam for all those who are joining now. Isa Shamo, I see you. Sahid Ali, I see you. I'll be coming to your question as well. So let's go to the next question. Okay. What's the next one? Question number 3. Somebody says, please, how will you break down Quran chapter 2, verse 2? It says that is the book to a layman who just started reading the Quran from the beginning without any preconceived knowledge of previous scriptures, right? To a layman, somebody who just started reading the Quran. And this is why you don't just always isolate a single verse to understand. Sometimes you get confused when you isolate a one verse in the Quran, just one verse to read. You might not get the clear picture. The clear picture was stated throughout. So I'm going to explain the question. The questioner is saying, how will you break down Quran chapter 2, verse 2? That is the book. Zalik al-Kitabu. Right? He just limited the statement. Zalik al-Kitab. So he is saying, how will you break it down to a layman? Remember, there are certain things it is difficult to explain to an ignorant person, but however, it is easier to explain to an intelligent person. So explaining something to a layman, it has to have a beginning first, right? If it is very complicated all of a sudden and the person's level of intelligence is very low, there will be a problem, right? So that is why when God is speaking, he says, this is for those who possess intelligence. Okay, so however, let me explain the question. Let me give you the answer to the question. Now, in order for the layman to understand what that verse means, this is what you have to do. Don't just isolate this verse alone. You have to connect it up to verse 5 so that he can understand why God says that is the book, right? So now, when you start reading from chapter 2, verse 2, God says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Then it continues, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Then it says, وَالَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. You see, وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. Then verse 5. Then it says, أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَى هُدًى مِنْ رَبِّهِمْ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. Now, this is where the person is going to understand it in a simple form. So now we start from chapter 2, verse 2 to verse 5. It says, that is the book wherein there is no doubt as guidance. So now you underline the word guidance as is underlined here. For the pious, for those who are pious, who believe in the unseen, establish the litany, and from what we have provided for them, they disperse. Then you go, who believe in what has been revealed to you, that is the Prophet Muhammad. Then he says, and what was revealed before you. So what was revealed before him, God has already told us in multiple verses that he revealed the book before, right? So in order for this to make sense to you, for me, before I complete this verse, then you go to Quran chapter 3, verse 3 to verse 4. Quran chapter 3, verse 3 to verse 4. Then you are going to understand the chapter we just came from. So in Quran chapter 3, verse 3 to verse 4, God says, he has revealed the book to you in truth, confirming what was before it, as he revealed the Torah and the gospel before as guidance for the people. And he revealed the criterion, right? Now, remember, if God has revealed the book and the book is confirming what was before it, so that is the book. Because, look, okay, this is the point here. You see this magazine. So let's say I gave this magazine to a brother in let's say in Somalia. I gave a brother in Somalia this book. Then now I'm talking to you, but I want to explain to you the same book, that book I gave to somebody, right? So now I have something, maybe a picture, and the picture has the information of the book here. So now I can call you and say, hey, brother, that is the book, or this is the book. That book that I gave him. So now that same book which I've given, because this is another book confirming what was there, right? So remember, whatever I'm confirming in this book is found in that book. So in order to erase the doubt in your head, I can tell you that is the book. But even though it could be another copy that I gave to the person over there, but because this thing I have here is confirming what is still there, I can tell you, oh, that is the book I was telling you about. That is the book. Because I have already told you about it, right? So when you take the Quran, you don't just read few verses and stick there. That is why the book, I give another example. If you take Quran chapter 16 verse 98, where God is telling you whenever you read the Quran, you should seek refuge. You have to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, right? You can see where the instruction has been put. You find that instruction in Quran chapter 16 verse 98. How come that verse was not found in the beginning? Actually, maybe let's say chapter 1 verse 1, saying that. The idea is to get you to study the whole book instead of just sticking to one chapter or one verse. So you have to have the curiosity to jump in the book to see the evidences by not just sticking to one side. So Surah Al-Baqarah, we go back. Chapter 2 verse 2. The idea of the question the brother was asking, he said, please, how will you break down chapter 2 verse 2? That is the book, to a layman who just started reading the Quran from the what? From the beginning without any preconceived knowledge, right, of previous scriptures. So then you use the same book, the Quran, to give him the answer, just like I just did for you. You have to first open chapter 2, verse 2, and read up to verse 5. That is number one, to show him how there has been a book revealed in the previous times. So the Quran is serving as a confirmation of what was before it, right? So whatever you are reading inside this book confirms that book. So now it can just tell you straightforward, that is the book wherein there is no doubt. So now when you read the verse up to down, verse 5, that is when it says, those are upon guidance from their Lord, and they are those who are what? The successful, right? So in order to explain these things to make sense to a layman, you have to go from verse to another verse or to another chapter in order for him to understand why it is mentioned that is the book. The next question. Okay, let me see here. The next question is, somebody says, it says Surah 4:4. That is Surah Al-Dukhan, right? I think this surah tells of a coming messenger. Can you clear the matter, please? Now, this is what the person thinks. The person is asking whether that chapter is talking about a messenger coming in the future, right? So let me see what points I can just bring on that chapter. Surah Al-Dukhan. In Surah Al-Dukhan, the concept of the chapter is not about a coming messenger. It is actually about the messenger who delivered the Quran. So it is not telling them they should anticipate another coming messenger, right? It is still that's messenger in the who delivered the Quran. What you need to understand is the messenger who delivered the Quran, the Quranic stories about that prophet, all the believers, all the people around him, is based on the past, present, and future. And that is why he's a prophet and a messenger at the same time, right? So the Quran, when you take, it has past events, and it has present events, and it has future events, right? So, however, the notion of messengers coming has been stated in Quran chapter 7, verse 35. In Quran chapter 7, verse 35, the coming of future messengers, this is what God says. God says, O children of Adam, Ya Bani Adam, imma yatiyannakum rusulun minkum. Then he says, yakusuna alaykum ayati faman ittaqa wa aslaha fala khawfun alayhim wala hum yahzanun. So he says, O children of Adam, if messengers among you come to you, narrating my verses to you, then whoever becomes pious and reforms, there will be no fear upon them, nor will they grieve. So you can see there's a condition of if. And he says, "Oh, children of Adam." And this statement is found in the Quran. So the messenger who delivered the Quran has a message for mankind. And now God is talking to the people. So he says, "Oh, children of Adam, if messengers among you come to you," do you see? It's just like if I'm leaving this book to you, right? Then I tell you, if my son comes to you, so if this condition is showing that it's likely there's a messenger, there are messengers coming, but it doesn't say prophets, messengers coming. Now, the duty of the messengers is what God is telling you in the verse. So God says, if messengers among you come to you, narrating my verses to you, then whoever becomes pious and reforms, there will be no fear upon them, nor will they go. So the messengers are not supposed to do anything but to narrate the verses of God to you. Nothing else. Nothing else. Just to narrate the verses of God to you. Now, let me confirm to you on the day of judgment that messengers will actually come to us. Quran chapter 39, verse 71. This is the verse here. God says, وَسِيقَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ زُمَرًا حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءُوهَا. Then he says, فُتِحَتْ أَبْوَابُهَا وَقَالَ لَهُمْ خَزَنَتُهَا أَلَمْ يَأْتِكُمْ رُسُلٌ مِّنكُمْ يَتْلُونَ عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتِ. Then he says, آيَاتِ رَبِّكُمْ وَيُنْذِرُونَكُمْ لِقَاءَ يَوْمِكُمْ هَذَا قَالُوا بَلَى وَلَكِنْ حَقَّتْ كَلِمَةُ الْعَذَابِ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. And those who disbelieve will be driven to hell in groups until when they reach its gates. Its gates will be opened, and its keepers will say to them, did messengers not come to you among you, reciting the verses of your Lord to you and warning you of this your day of meeting? They, the transgressors, will say, indeed, but the word of punishment has been imposed on the disbelievers. Do you see the prophecy there? Now, this is a future event happening on the day of judgment, but it's already in the Quran telling you what will happen. And then the same Quran is telling you, if messengers come to you, from you, among you, narrating the verses of God to you, then he told you what you have to do. It is not the messenger coming to tell you his own whims and desires. He's only going to tell you what God says. So you have to understand how that works. Right? So messengers will still be coming till the day of judgment, whether you like it or not. Unless you let the foolish mushrik convince you otherwise and tell you Muhammad is the last messenger. You are the dumbest fool to think, yeah, it's true that Muhammad is the last messenger. Unless if you don't know the meaning of a messenger. We are not talking about a prophet. We are not talking about a prophet. I said messenger. Messengers will still be coming till the day of judgment. And again, another one is Quran chapter 10, verse 47. In Quran chapter 10, verse 47, God says, وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولٍ فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ قُضِيَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْقِسْطِ وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And for every nation, every ummah is a messenger. Every ummah will have a messenger. So when their messenger comes, do you see the verse? فَإِذَا جَاءَ رَسُولُهُمْ. Do you see? Then he says, so when their messenger comes, it will be settled between them in justice, and they will not be wrangled. So now check verse 48. Then the people told the people said, when the messenger Muhammad alayhi salam was telling his people about this prophecy. Now listen what his people said. وَيَقُولُونَ مَتَى هَذَا الْوَحَدُ إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. And they say, when is this promise, if you should be truthful? Now, we all know promise has to do with the future. There's no promise in the past. You can't promise somebody in the past. You only promise people in the future. When somebody says, I promise you, it's about the future. It's not about it's not about the past. You don't promise people in the past. So you promise people about the future thing coming. So the people were asking, when is this promise, if you should be truthful? Remember, the only way judgment day can happen is when every nation have their messenger. It is not like the messenger is coming with a different book. It is the same Quran that the message has to go to everybody. Just like today, babashuaib is sitting here. I'm talking to multitudes of people all over the world. It's the message of the Quran. That is what guided you here. Other than that, what do you want to see? My ugly face? No. What do you want to see? My shirt? No. That's not why you are here. You are here because I'm speaking about the Quran. That is what interests you, because God is more important to you than anything else. Do you understand? So that is the point. It's a prophecy. Messengers will still be coming till the day of judgment. Yes, I'm not talking about prophets. Messengers, right? And then when they come to you, as you, every messenger with his people, and this is the verse here. In Quran chapter 14, verse 4, it says, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا بِلِسَانٍ قَوْمِهِ لِيُبَيِّنُ لَهُمْ فَيُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. Then he says, and we do not send a messenger except in the language or in the tongue of his people in order to clarify to them. That is in the language, in their own language, so that he can clarify to make things, understandable for them. Then God sends astray whomever he wills and guides whomever he wills. And he is the Almighty, the wise. Right? So understand how that works as well. Now, so that is the question the person was saying, that I think this surah tells of a coming messenger. Can you clarify the matter, please? Okay, so that is done. Question number 5. Before I go there, let me see here. Yeah. Question number 5. The person says, let me see, just a second. Okay, let me continue. Question number 5. The person says, babashuaib, can you help me understand connection between the Suratul Isra, verse 1, and Mihraj in the Hadith? What you need to understand is Suratul Isra, chapter 17, verse 1, it has no connection whatsoever with the Mihraj they are talking about. When we say Mihraj, they are talking about the ladders. They say the prophet climbed the ladder. That he didn't climb any ladder. They are lying to you. According to them, they say he even sat on a what? A flying, how do you call it? A unicorn. They call it, is it Burak? They say the prophet sat on a Burak to go to the sky, to go and bring them 50 prayers, negotiated prayers. The one which says Adam was crying and laughing at the same time. They are comedians. Don't take them seriously. I'm serious. Any book which they tell you a Persian wrote it, a Persian who is not even an Arabian, wrote it for you as guidance. Be careful. I'm not against Persians, but I'm saying any book in Islam which tells you it's coming from a Persian, we don't have any Persian prophet that brought the Quran. It's an Arabian prophet who brought the Quran. So if they are telling you a Persian person wrote hadith books as guidance for you, beware. Those books are comedy. Be careful. So now, they said the prophet sat on a unicorn to go to the sky. So what they do is they attribute chapter 17 verse 1 to the prophet. It's a lie. The Quran chapter 17 verse 1 never mentions the prophet there. Remember, I'm telling you this. It is the prophet who received the Quran, right? So if he received the Quran, chapter 17 verse 1, if you check, and then it continues the context of Musa alayhi salam, and it goes down, it doesn't mention the prophet in that verse, in those verses. So number one, there is no connection with Surah Al-Isra'i, verse 1 to Miraj. If God was in his infinite wisdom, was able to mention Ma'arij in Quran chapter 70, Ma'arij, he knows what Miraj is. He could have mentioned. There is nothing like Miraj, the prophet ever going something called Miraj. It is they who give those lies themselves. So now let's understand what the question the person is asking. So I put the verse on the screen. Quran chapter 17, verse 1. Now, Quran chapter 17, verse 1, God says, Subhanallazi asra bi abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-harami ila al-masjid al-aqsa allazi barakna hawlahu niriyahu min ayatina innahu huwa sami'ul basir. Glory be to the one who made his servants travel at night from the sacred masjid, to the farthest mosque. At the time where Musa alayhi salam or Muhammad alayhi salam existed on earth, there is no Masjid al-Aqsa, the one you are seeing in Israel. That the one they are telling you, Masjid al-Aqsa, it never existed at the time of the Prophet or at the time of Musa alayhi salam. So listen and listen carefully. Just like the country they call Israel, next to Palestine, never existed at the time of the Prophet, neither at the time of Musa alayhi salam. That country was only formed as a state in 1948. So remember and check the histories for yourself, right? You'll be lied to, especially media can lie to you. So this verse is saying, glory be to the one who made his servant, listen, who made his servant travel at night from the sacred masjid to the farthest masjid. It doesn't say he traveled from earth to the skies. He never said he traveled from the earth to the heavens. He never mentioned unicorn in the verse. He never mentioned Ma'arij or Miraj in the verse. It is only the foolish mushriks trying to interpolate their garbage words into the words of God. Just like God says, Quran chapter 10 verse 87. وَيُحِقُّ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ بِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. I think Quran chapter 10 verse 82, right? وَيُحِقُّ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ بِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. God will enforce the truth with his words, even if the criminals dislike it. I know they don't like it when we speak from the Quran alone. They will say quranist. You are hadithiyun. Especially garbage hadiths are even following. A book of breastfeeding adults. I'll be a fool to follow such a book. Now, glory be to the one who made his servant travel at night from the sacred masjid to the farthest masjid, around which we have blessed, in order to show him, listen, it is the prophet who received the Quran, right? Now look at the statements he's being told. The prophet is being told this statement. So if God was talking to the prophet, telling the prophet about this, he will say, glory be to the one who made you travel at night from the sacred masjid to the farthest masjid, around which we have blessed, in order to show you some of our signs. Indeed, he, God, is the hearing and the seer. Simple logic. Simple. Do you understand me? So the verse has nothing to do with Muhammad here. It doesn't shape Prophet Muhammad in the verse. You want to understand who he's talking about? Then we continue. Verse 2. Then God says, وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلْنَاهُ هُدًى لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ أَلَّا تَتَّخِذُوا مِن دُونِي وَكِيلًا. For we gave Moses the book. Remember, there's a conjunction here starting. There's wa. Sometimes the wa can start a paragraph. That is what we call in Arabic, they call it fikra. It can start a paragraph, but there's a connection. Immediately after the verse above, God started with wa. It says wa. That is, it can be for or and. Immediately after the verse above, chapter 17, verse 1, God continued with wa. Usually, if you take the Quran and the first statement of the chapter is wa, then that's just the beginning. That is the paragraph for the beginning. But if it is a continuation of a verse and you see wa, it is not starting a different concept. It is continuation of the concept above. Try to understand what I'm saying. The wa being used there, وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابَ, it clearly signifies that the verse 1 is referencing to Musa. Why am I saying that? Do you know at the time of Musa alayhi salam, they know what they call Hajj? If you want to know, go to Quran chapter 28, verse 27. When he was making a promise with the father of the woman, the lady he married, they made an agreement concerning 8 hijaj, that is pilgrimages. Right? So he knows about that. And the pilgrimage, the sacred masjid existed. Yes, it existed at the time of Musa alayhi salam. Right? So the verse has nothing to do with Muhammad alayhi salam. But the mushriks will put Muhammad there because they try to use another book to explain the Quran. That is the problem. Let's try to understand the words of God within the context of the Quran itself. So God says, وَآتَيْنَا مُوسَى الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلْنَا هُدًى لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ أَلَّا تَتَّخِذُوا مِن دُونِي وَكِيلًا. For we gave Moses the book and made it a guidance for the children of what? Israel, that do not take a representative besides me. Then it continues. The descendants of those we transported along with Noah. It's not saying children of Israel were transported with Noah. The Bani Israel, they are the descendants. Listen, if we say descendant, doesn't mean directly your son. If you are a descendant of somebody, you can be generations away from the person and you are still the descendant of somebody. Right? So when God was just saying this, it's just to show you the lineage of where the children of Israel came from. Because Musa alayhi salam is part of the children of Israel. So now the descendants of those we transported along with Noah, that is Nuh alayhi salam. Indeed, Noah, was a grateful servant. Verse 4, and we decreed to the children of Israel. So you can see all the context of the verses we are reading is about the children of Israel. So how does Muhammad alayhi salam fit in that verse? How does it fit in there? We decree to the children of Israel in the book that you will corrupt on earth twice. When we say children of Israel, we are not talking about the Israel country next to Palestine. Those are Yahud. Those are Jews. They are not the children of Israel. Bani Israel. Bani Israel, they are the Asbat. They are the clan. They are the tribes. Then it continues. The prophecy continues up to verse 7. If you read, you get to understand it's talking about Bani Israel throughout. Right? So if it was talking to the prophet or about the prophet, God will use the second person pronoun to address him. Just like he used in the same chapter, he used a lot of instances to talk to the prophet direct in that chapter. Do you understand? So it has nothing to do with him, and there's no connection whatsoever concerning the Miraj or whatever they keep telling you, right? So let me give you an example here. So the questioner was saying, help me understand the connection between Surah Al-Isra verse 1 and Mihraj and the Hadith. As I read the Surah Al-Isra in context, next verses talks about Moses, peace be upon him, and children of Israel. And the rest of the verse doesn't mention anything about Prophet Muhammad or anything related to Mihraj. So how do people interpret the verse and make connection with Hadith report from one person in the chain, meaning it's Ahad Ahadith and not Mutawatir? How is it possible that all the prophets, peace be upon them, all the prophet companions didn't report this critical, important travel of the prophet to the heavens, but only one man is reportedly heard from the prophet? So, brother Saeed, this is how they lie to people, right? If you leave the Quran to jump into some external books to tell you about the Quran, you are in trouble. Those external books are lying to you. So be careful. Quran chapter 10 verse 82, God says, وَيُحِقُّ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ بِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَلَوْ كَرَهَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. God says he will enforce the truth with his words, even if the criminals dislike it. Yes, salam. Monotin, Brother Muhammad, I see you. So whether you like it or not, it is God enforcing the truth with his words, not our words, not Sahih Bukhari words, not any storybooks, right? So now, that is the answer to the question to the brother asked, right? There is no connection whatsoever with the Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17, verse 1. When you read up to verse 7, you get the context to understand what it says. There is no connection whatsoever to the hadith books or Mihraj, or they say the current Masjid al-Aqsa you are seeing in Israel has nothing to do with the one in the Quran. That one was built, the one you see in Israel now, it was built way, way, way after Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad never saw that masjid you are seeing in Israel right now. As a matter of fact, when Prophet Muhammad existed on earth, there was no country on earth called Israel. This Israel you are seeing was formed in the year 1948. The land is called Palestine, Philistine. There was no Israel country there. What God is talking about is Bani Israel or Banu Israel. That is all. There is no country called Israel in the Quran. Okay. Now, question number 6. So a sister was asking, she says, if there is no ritual salat, right, meaning a series of ritualistic movements as practiced by the majority, then what is the ritual cleansing in chapter 5, verse 6 done for? Right? Okay. So let me go to that question. So I shared a screen and let's see the verse to that question. So Quran chapter 5, verse 6. This is the verse. Many a times, this is what people have to understand. I'm going to put this out, something here. Wait. Yeah, just a second. Bear with me just a second, I want to explain a concept. I think I've explained it before, but I just want to broaden the understanding so that people would understand what it means. Yeah. Okay. Now, in Quran chapter 5, verse 6, it says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, iza kuntum ila salat, فَغُسِلُهُمْ وُجُوءَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ وَأَمْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Right? Now, let's see that part alone before I move on to the side of the verse. Right? The verse says, "O you who have believed, when you get up for the salat, then wash your faces," that is number 1, "and your hands," that is number 2, that is the hands to the elbows, that's number 2, "and wipe with your heads," that is number 3, "and your legs to the heels," that is number 4. Okay. Now, do you see this procedure I just mentioned to you right now? This procedure is a command. You have been commanded to do it when you get up for the salat. But however, there are different of opinions or understandings when it comes to the word salat. Some people say it is not a physical act. Some people say it is a duty. Some people say it is following closely. Some people say it is commitment. Some people say, you understand, it's prayer. Okay. So whichever you understand. Before we go to the salat issue, let's examine this verse. Now, this verse is explaining a ritual. Let's not go to the salat first, because you have to do this act before you go to the salat. So this verse you are reading, the thing it is explaining is a ritual. Now, when people don't understand the word, what ritual actually means. So let me break down. I put it on the screen. Let me break down what ritual means so that you get to understand the clear concept of what I'm talking about, the gist of what I'm talking about. So let me do this. So like this. Okay. So I put this file. Oh, what should I do? Yeah, this. This one. Now, do you see on the screen? Yeah, you are welcome, Sahid Ali. You are welcome. Salam, Sister Nazkan. You are welcome. Now, on the screen, you see the word ritual. Now, when we say ritual, we are talking about any customary observance or practice, or we can say the prescribed procedure for conducting religious ceremonies. Now, for people who don't believe in, when you say religion, the definition of a religion is believing in a supernatural being who controls your destiny. Right? If you believe any being, any supernatural being, or any superior entity controlling your destiny, that is defined as a religion. And that is faith, iman. So if you have faith in any unseen entity or any unseen effect to something, and you put your faith inside there, that is defined as religion, because that is faith, right? Okay. So any customary observance or practice that you do in terms because of your faith is called ritual. For instance, if you have to always pour water in front of your house and it's based on faith, somebody told you to be doing that based on your faith, any doctrine tells you to do that based on your faith, that is considered as a ritual. You understand? So in every denomination of faith, religions, people do rituals. Now, in order to understand what ritual is about, you have to understand what ritual is. Any customary, when we say custom, it's a custom. You have to follow that standard. So any customary observance or practice is a ritual. Second meaning, the prescribed procedure for conducting a ceremony or a religious ceremony is also a ritual. So far as it has been prescribed for you to do, it becomes your ritual. You understand? So let's go this way. We have footballers who do rituals before they go to the field. Anytime they are going to the football field, you see them do this. That is your ritual, because maybe your pastor or your priest told you to be doing that before you enter the field. That becomes a customary observance, and that is a ritual, because if you don't do that, you don't feel good. Do you understand? So when it comes to the salat, before you go to the salat, God says, "Iza kuntum ila salat." Then He says, "Fagusulu wujuhakum wa aydiyakum ila al-marafiq wa umsahu bi ru'usikum wa arjulakum ila al-ka'bah." If you never do these things God is commanding in Quran chapter 5 verse 6, you have no salat. I don't care whatever salat is for you. Whether salat is flying, I don't care. So far as you don't do this chapter 5 verse 6, your salat is useless. Because you have to follow this ritual God is mentioning in Quran chapter 5 verse 6 before you go and do whatever, whether following closely, whether duty, whether flying, whether prayer, whether connection, whatever you want to do. That's what you understand, because that is what God is going to judge you upon, right? I will not be standing there, right? But remember, Quran chapter 5 verse 6 is clearly defining a ritual for you. The ritual is the prescribed procedure for conducting a ceremony. You don't do it, no salat for you. Simple. Do you understand the logic here? That is what we define as ritual. But now for people who say ritual salat, that is where the problem is. No, you don't say ritual salat, but salat, listen, the salat is a ritual. Why do I say that? The question is, has salat been ordained or prescribed for you to establish? If God says establish salat and you're establishing it every time, it becomes a ritual. I don't care if you think, oh, bowing down, prostrating, sleeping, diving, jumping. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the act itself, the action that God has stipulated for you to do. That is a ritual. If it's not a ritual, why did Abraham do it? Why did Moses do it? Why did Jesus say he has been instructed to do it? Why are all the prophets saying they've been instructed? If it's not a ritual, then why is it a part of you? Then you put it aside. If it's not a ritual means the prescribed procedure for conducting a ceremony. Any customary observance or practice you have to do in your life based on your faith is a ritual. If you don't agree, it means academically you are kaput. You don't understand what ritual means. Do you get my point? That is why I even go to the extent using footballers, using people in denominations and everything, ritual for you. Understand the word ritual and what it means. We are not saying the salat, ritual salat, based on what the hadithiyuns are doing. The hadithiyuns will tell you when you do salat, you sit down, you don't do your hands like this, the devil will be around you, you have to whip the devil. We are not telling about that. No. That's not from the Quran. As a matter of fact, their ritualistic ablution is not of the Quran. So we are not talking about sectarians. However, for those who claim to follow the Quran, and you say you take guidance from the Quran, you have to understand how to understand certain topics and concepts in the Quran. I don't care whether you think it's physical or not physical. I'm talking about how do you define or describe scenarios or things you see in the Quran. That is what I'm talking about. Do you get my point? Okay. So when we say ritual, we are talking about any customary observance or practice. So the question I will ask you is whether salat is not physical for you. Is it a practice? If you say yes, then you are still in the trap. You will fall in the trap I'm setting for you. Do you agree with me that you have to practice chapter 5, verse 6 before the salat? If you agree with me, that is a ritual. If you don't agree, then it means you are playing with your own conscience. Simple. Whether salat is not physical for you, whether it has to be flying or cooking, whether you define salat as swimming, I don't care. But if only you have to do the swimming, anytime you do this ghusl, before you go and do the swimming, that is a ritual. Because if it's not a ritual, why must you do the ghusl before you go? You understand? Something which is not a ritual for you, you don't need to follow any procedure. There's no step for you to follow. So why must I do the ghusl before I go for salat? That is a ritual. If it's not a ritual, why must you do the chapter 5 verse 6? Why? Do you understand the logic here? Okay, so let's go back to the question. So the questioner is asking, if there is no ritual salat, which I agree, there is no ritual salat, but salat is a ritual. I know it's confusing for people, right? It will be confusing. Okay. When we say ritual salat, meaning God has actually prescribed it directly to say, when you get up, stand like this, face here, do this, jump here, fly like this, sit high. That is a prescribed salat. So that will become a ritual salat. Do you get my point? That becomes a ritual salat, which means you have to follow the standard of the way the salat goes. If you don't do that, your salat is kaput. Right? But salat itself is a ritual because it has been ordained for you, prescribed for you to establish it. The Prophet also established the salat. But however, the way we establish the salat might differ. I just showed you that salat can be even done when you are walking or riding. Didn't you see the verses? You can do salat whilst you are walking or riding. Simple. You can do salat while standing. Yes. You can do salat by prostrating. You can do salat by doing ruku. Whichever salat you understand, make sure you can prove it from the words of God. That is your salat. Don't just go with your opinions to say, oh, salat just means duty. So the duty, must you do the ablution or the washing before you go for duty? Then that is a ritual. You get my point? I'll be opening the phone lines. You call. Whoever is this, call and let's deliberate on it. So the sister was asking, she said, meaning a series of ritualistic movement. There is no ritualistic movements. Right? There is no ritualistic movement. There is no verse in the Quran where God says, if you don't do ruku'u, your salat is in vain. He never said that. He never said, if you don't do ruku in your salat is invalid. Or neither does he say, if you don't do standing, you are going to hell. He never said that. However, the Quran is meant for us to take the examples of the prophets. We can see the example of Zechariah. We can see the example of Prophet Muhammad. We can see the example of Ibrahim. They are all in the Quran. And God says we should look at their examples and then follow their footsteps. So let me give you an example. Right? Now, here, this is what I'm going to do. Oh, where is it? What did I just do? Yeah. I go to, let me share this, sorry. I share this on the screen. When you go to Quran chapter 4, verse 26, listen what God says concerning those before us. He said what? God intends to clarify to you and guide you to the examples of those before you and to forgive you. And God is omniscient and wise. God says, Yuridullahu liyubayyina lakum wa yahdiyakum sunana allazina min qablikum wa yatuba alaykum wallahu alimun hakim. God intends to clarify to you and guide you to the examples of those before you and to forgive you. And God is omniscient and wise. Then again, God told the prophet concerning the prophets who came before him. This is what God says. He says, Ulaika allazina hada Allah fabi'udahum iqtadi. Then he says, what? Those are the ones whom God has guided. If you want to know those whom God has guided, check Quran chapter 6, verse what? Verse 82 and read up to verse 90. You see all the list of the prophets whom God has guided, right? Those are the ones whom God has guided. So lead by their guidance. You lead by their guidance. So you have to lead, follow their footsteps as well, right? Okay. So now we see the example of Zechariah. God didn't put the stories of the prophets in the Quran in vain. So now to summarize that point, I take you to Quran chapter 19, verse 58, right? In Quran chapter 19, verse 58, this is what the verse says. It says, those are the ones whom God had favored among the prophets from the descendants of Adam, and of those we transported with Noah, and of the descendants of Abraham and Israel, and of those we guided and chose. When the verses of the gracious were recited to them, they fell down in prostration and weeping. They fell down in prostration and weeping. Then verse 59. But successors who came after them, after this list of prophets mentioned, who came after them, lost the salat, adha'us salat, and followed desires. Therefore, they will encounter temptation. Now, do you see the act of salat in these verses? These two verses I just gave you on the screen. Chapter 19, verse 58 to 59. What happens? When the verses of the gracious were recited to them, it clearly shows you that they were standing. When the verses were recited to them, what happened? They fell down. You can only fall down when you are standing. So they fell down from the standing position. They fell down. Harru means to fall down on your knees. You go down like you're falling down as going down, right? They fell on in prostration to show their submission. The act of sujudan is to show your submission. So you have to do as you have to show the sign of submission. You cannot just be standing like this, no showing any sign of anything, then you say you submit. Like you are in front of the king, and then they ask you, you have to show your submission. They say sujud, and then you say, I submit. You submit to what? You show your submission to what? You have to show the sign of submission, right? And weeping. Now, this example of the prophets, when you follow this example, it's a good thing. If you decide not to follow, that is your own palava sauce. It's your own cup of tea. But however, there is no command whatsoever by force. You have to do what the way the prophet did. There's no command whatsoever. But however, when you go throughout the Quran, these things have been consistent. Quran chapter 17, verse 107. I'm going to show you something. You have to compare this verse to the previous verse and see something. Say, believe in it or do not believe. Indeed, those who were given the knowledge before it, when it is recited to them, what is that? The book of God. When the book of God is recited to them, they fall down to their chins in prostration to show their submission, just as it's mentioned in Quran chapter 19, verse 58. You saw it earlier. Then it continues, 108, and they say, glory be to our Lord. Indeed, the promise of our Lord is effective, maf'ula. And they fall down to their chins weeping. Do you see the similarities between these verses with chapter 19, verse 58? Similar. And it increases them in. Do you see the point? Then now the context continues and is going to still pinpoint the salat there and tells you that, say, invoke the God or invoke the gracious, whichever you invoke, thence to him belongs the best names. Then it says, do not be loud with your salat, nor be silent with it, but seek a way in between. So salat is an act where you have to say things also, because you'll be reciting the verses of God. So you don't need to be loud. You don't need to be silent. You have to seek a way in between. Okay. So based on the question being asked, it said, then what is the ritual cleansing in chapter 5, verse 6 done for? The ritual cleansing in chapter 5, verse 6 is done for the act of salat. Right? The salat has been prescribed to the believers, even at decreed times. Quran chapter 4, verse 103. This is what it says. It says what? Here. It says, Inna salata kanat alal mu'minina kitaban mawquta. So he says, indeed, the salat, the litany, is upon the believers at decreed, that is written times, right? It's decreed in the Quran, and it has its own times. And again, if I take you to Quran chapter 14, verse 31, this is what God says. He told the prophet, Kul lil ibadiya allazina amanu yukimu salata wa yunfiku mimma razaqnahum sirran wa alaniyatan min qabli an yatiya yawmun la bay'un fihi wala khilal. Tell my servants who believe to establish the salat, the litany, and disburse from what we have provided for them secretly and publicly before a day comes wherein there is no transaction nor friendship. So in summary, salat is an act you establish for the remembrance of God, zikrullah. That is why we recite the verses of God. It is a message from God to us. So when you recite, you are remembering God. So then you do the zikr. You can do invocation, and that is why it is a litany. You do invocation, you do supplication, you do thanksgiving, you do glorification, you do obeisance. It's all part. It's like an umbrella. It's all part of the salat. Do you understand? Okay. So there is no fixed posture where it says by force you have to stand and do this and do that. No. But however, we are following the examples of the prophets and the messengers. That is the humble part of it. You follow what your predecessors have done. They are superior to you. So you are following their examples. That is the point. If you go somewhere and they tell you, look at what your senior brother did, you have to do like him. Are you going to do differently? It shows you are arrogant. Just do as they did. That shows your humility. Do you get my point? Okay. So the last question before I jump to the viewers, somebody is saying, babashuaib, can you talk about MUTAH? He says, can you explain temporary marriage? That is, in Arabic, they say MUTAH. MUTAH. This MUTAH is what they call temporary marriage, or they call it pleasure marriage. Now, this is a fake marriage they created. It is just like prostitution. So I'm going to talk about that. So what do they mean by this MUTAH marriage? So let's share the screen and see. So when we say MUTAH, it's a private and verbal temporary marriage contract that is practiced in 12 Shia Islam, in which the duration of the marriage and the mahar must be specified and agreed upon in advance. But this kind of marriage is done verbally. They don't write it down. You have to say it verbally. So what do? He will find a pretty lady. He's interested in her. Then he says, oh, let's make an agreement. Let's do MUTAH marriage, so that I can try you for sex. After we are done, if you are not okay with me, then you go your way, I go my way. This is prostitution. It says it is a private contract made in a verbal or written format. Usually they do it verbal, right? A declaration of the intent to marry and an acceptance of terms are required as in other forms of marriage in Islam. But the problem is, let me show you where the problem is. The problem concerning this kind of marriage, the problem concerning this kind of marriage is, with this issue of temporary marriage, according to the Shiites, they said Prophet Muhammad sanctioned MUTAH, this marriage, he sanctioned it according to them, and yet we don't see it in the Quran. And then places like Iraq and Iran, people still practice this act here. They normally do it for fornication. They think it's part of Islam. It's not. Which has instead been used as legitimizing cover for sex workers in a culture where prostitution is otherwise forbidden. So even in the Arabian countries, which they forbid sex worker prostitution, this is the legal way of prostitution. So if some of the perverts you are watching, please go to those places and go and do MUTAH marriage. It's allowed. It's legal prostitution. Go and is it by force to practice Islam? If you don't want to practice Islam, just become an atheist and do what you want. What are you trying to formulate God's religion with your nonsensical jokes and whatever things? How can you say this is temporary marriage for what? Look at the foolishness. So it says some Western writers have argued that MUTAH approximates prostitution. Yes, it is. Some sources say the nikah MUTAH has no prescribed minimum or maximum duration, but others such as Oxford Dictionary of Islam indicate minimum duration of the marriage is debatable, and durations of at least 3 days, 3 months, or 1 year have been suggested. And yet we don't find all these garbage stories in the Quran. These instructions are not from the Quran, but people think this is Islam. Some Muslims and Western scholars have stated that nikah MUTAH and then nikah MUTAH is Islamically void. Is void. Attempts to religiously sanction prostitution, which is otherwise forbidden. The Zaydi Shia reject MUTAH marriage. So not all Shia people approve MUTAH marriage. So even some Sunnis, some Sunni legal schools agree that MUTAH was recognized and practiced in the Prophet's time. Look, they agree that the Prophet made it what? Recognize and practice it. Listen. Most Sunnis, however, think the practice to have been abrogated by the Prophet. They said, even though the Prophet allowed it at his time, but it was later on abrogated. In consequence, Sunnis have denounced MUTAH as simple what? Prostitution. Yes, it is prostitution. MUTAH is prostitution. Yeah. So if you are practicing that, be careful and don't attribute that to God. Sister Stussy, you are asking about Quran chapter 3 verse 55. Actually, I have a video on that because I wanted now to give the audience the chance to ask their questions. Sister Stussy, I have your number, so I will send you the link. I've explained that. I have a video on that, so I will send you the link to that, right? It's on my YouTube channel. I don't want to keep repeating myself too much. Anyways, let me see some of the questions. Somebody says, what are your thoughts about salat meaning duty and not prayer? I've spoken about that. Kamar says, Sheikh, can you please explain chapter 15 verse 87? It mentions that we have bestowed upon thee the 7 oft repeated and the Grand Quran. It is interesting to find out where to locate them. That is chapter 1, Surah Al-Fatiha. That is chapter 1 of the Quran, right? Chapter 1 of the Quran is a separate surah from the message to mankind, right? So chapter 1 of the Quran is the opener, is the often repeated, right? It is the same verses which has been revealed to the people of the past as well, right? So that is why when you, after the chapter 1, when you read, then you open Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, right? So when you go to Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 verse 2, it says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, to signify that chapter 1 you are reading, right? That chapter 1 you are reading, that is something which has been revealed to people of the previous scriptures as well, right? The way they invoke God, they have to call on God for God to give them guidance, right? Restless Native says, who or what is the Yajuj and Majuj, Gog and Magog? Who did the angels teach magic to? Can pick one question, Baba. Gog and Magog are just the corrupters of the land. Wherever they are, they cause corruption. So wherever they appear, you see corruption. Any country or any place you see corruption, Yajuj and Majuj are there. They are just the corrupters of every place they go, right? That is just a symbol of description of who they are. It's not like a specific name. It's like a title of the corrupters. Wherever you see those entities, the people who do corruption a lot, that means Yajuj and Majuj has arrived. They are there, right? So let me put my number on the screen. Whoever wants to call can call on the program, right? That is the number below the screen. For those on Facebook, on YouTube, that is the number. However, I'm almost 2 hours into the program. I can stay a bit for like 20 to 25 minutes further. Then from there, I jump to TikTok before I go to sleep, right? Bandwidth is telling somebody they have to do MUTAH. Subhanallah. That is why the sectarians, they get angry when you are trying to break down their idol worship. They are enjoying. That's why the shuyuks, they are enjoying, because they are using this advantage to sleep with a lot of ladies out there. To tell the ladies, oh, let's do MUTAH. Let's do MUTAH. So at least the sheikh can go 6 rounds. When he's tired, he say, hey, yeah, bint, it's okay. MUTAH, we are done. He goes to find another lady. Yeah, thank you very much. Rachel Green. Yes, I got. Yes, I was told you received the. Hope you enjoyed to the fullest, inshallah. Yeah. So Bandwidth says what? He says the hadith books are the serpents of Islam. Yes, they are. Actually, they are. Yes, they are. Yes. So, like I said, the number is on the page. You want to call, you can call to state your point. It doesn't necessarily have to be a question. If you have something to say, you can say. Yes, sisters Stussy, yes, Yajuj Majuj are the corrupters of the land. Wherever they are, they cause corruption. So wherever you see corruption all over the countries, the world, Yajuj and Majuj are available. It's just a title for you, a symbol, so that you get to know that this is the sign of corruption. That is Yajuj and Majuj, right? So the number is on the page. For those on TikTok and Facebook, unfortunately, you cannot see the number, but it is plus 358 466 803144. That is correctional officer's number. Yeah. Nabi Allah says, can you come back on chapter 2, verse 144? I have a video on it. Yeah. I have a video on it on my YouTube channel, right? I have a video. If you go to Quranic misconceptions, right? You see it there. I have the video on that. Abdul Abbas says, Baba, what can I do for zikr if I can't do stand prayer? You can do the zikr. Zikr means you have to glorify God. You can glorify God. You can recite the verses of the Quran for yourself, and then you can glorify God, right, in your salat. But the point is, the zikr, you have to choose. Our advice, if you do dua, yeah, if you do dua, if you do supplications, you do glorifications, like if you do Subhana Rabbiyal Ala, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, all these ones are in the Quran, chapter 87, verse 1. Subhana Rabbiyal Ala, Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, you find it, I think, Quran chapter 56, verse 96. You find Tabaraka Rabbi Ismi Rabbi Zil Jalali wal Ikram, Tabaraka Allahu Rabbul Alameen, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Subhanallahi Rabbul Alameen. All these ones, they are glorifications, right? And tasbih. And also you can do some du'as you find in the Quran, just like Quran chapter 3, verse 20 says, where it says, Qul Allahumma malik al-mulk, right? Then you can go to Quran chapter 39, verse, is it 46 or 47? Allahumma fatiri samawati wal ard, alim al-ghaybi wa shahadat. Anta takum bayna an-nas fima talafu fi, and so on. So there are a lot of verses which has dua in them where you can use to commemorate God and do the zikr of God. Something which which gives you attention to God, to remember God, right? You can use that. Stussy says, what is the secret? It's not secret masjid, it's sacred. Sacred means, right, something desecrated, dedicated to God, right? A sacred thing, an object, or it can be an object, it can be a place, it can be a building, something dedicated to God. That thing becomes sacred, right? Like the Quran is sacred book, so it's dedicated to God. Masjid al-Haram, sacred masjid, dedicated to God. So anything dedicated to God, especially, can be sacred, right? Yeah, kindly check it out. Nabi Allah. If nobody is calling, actually, let me see. I can maybe speak about it a bit. That is Quran chapter 2, verse 144. Right? Yeah, let me put it on the screen. Yeah, I shared a screen. Quran chapter 2, verse 144. Before I go there, somebody saying something. Let me see. Rob Baden says, is MUTAH ever approved by the Quran? No. MUTAH is just like prostitution. It's just like sleeping with a lady. It's like taking a secret lover. Quran forbids taking a secret lover where you just have, for fornication. It forbids that, right? It's better to have marriage. If it doesn't work, you go your separate ways. But to have the concept of MUTAH in your head, that's foolishness for me, right? And Ahmed Asaf says, Zamzam water is so special water, but Quran didn't mention that. Where is come from this word? It is the people who made it special. The people made it special. It's not God telling you anything about Zamzam. The word Zamzam is not in the Quran. The word holy water is not in the Quran. So it is the people who made it special. For instance, Finland. Finland has, you can Google it, Finland has one of the most cleanest drinking water in the world, right? Finland is one of the countries that you can actually go to the toilet and then use your sink. You can take water from the sink and drink, right? The sink. I'm not talking about the toilet water. Please hear me well. I'm not talking about the water closet. You go to the sink, you take water from the cup, from the sink, and drink, and it's clean. Even from the shower, pouring on you, you can drink from that water. Finland has one of the cleanest water, but it's not holy. It's not Zamzam. So people made this issue like that. It is not God who said Zamzam water is holy. They made it holy so that they can sell it to you. It's business. So God never said. And also the black stone they have next to the Kaaba, please, it's not from God. It's not from God. So yeah. Said says, my brother, after many years, I have come to conclusion that today I have forsaken the Quran, as the Prophet complained in the verse of the Quran. They have no knowledge of the Quran. They have only been taught to learn the recitation only, but their knowledge is hadith only. Yes, that is why Muslims Ummah have been behind on all areas of knowledge. And other knowledge like science, math, engineering, they have been humiliated and manipulated when they are allowed to follow. I agree with you. Yes, I agree. Yeah, Tawfiq. Yes, that's true. Yes, the funny part, Abdullah Abbas, they actually go kiss. Look, ladies and gentlemen, have you actually taken note of this? When you are watching the pilgrims, those who go for Hajj, the stone they normally go to kiss, the black stone. Have you noticed that when somebody kisses it, they don't even wash it, they don't wipe it. The next person comes to kiss the same place. So imagine this corona issue, how many people got corona from each other. You understand? People are just fooling themselves because they have been indoctrinated. So the logic is out of the equation, right? Somebody goes to, then another person comes to the same place. And may it be the person even kissing didn't brush their teeth. Hey, Allah, everybody. When I'm watching the video, I'm like, what? Then I think they practice how to kiss over there. Kaiser says, don't worry, black seed will cure it. So from black stone to black seed. These people are just forming a comedian religion. Yes, Kamar, yeah, it's true. Shipul. Yeah, Shipul. They just do. The funny part from the hadith is they say that Umar says, if not because I saw the prophet just kissing you, I wouldn't have kissing you. So you saw the prophet kissing the stone. You didn't ask him, why are you kissing? You just also go like a sheep to just go and kiss. Hey, this mushrik say, I'm tired. I'm tired of this mushrik ideology. Okay, so let me go to the verse I was asked. Quran chapter 2, verse 144. The verse says, we have seen your face turning around toward the sky, so we have entrusted to you a place of worship, that is Qibla, with which you will be pleased. So turn your face towards the sacred masjid, and wherever you may be, thus turn your face towards it, so that those who were given the book, Those who were given the book will know that it is the truth from their Lord, and God is not heedless of what they do. Now, many a times, what people misunderstand is, number one, this verse doesn't talk about salat. There is no salat in this verse. And the subject matter of the verse is just God telling the prophet, assigning a place of worship for him. Remember, the mushriks drove him away from Mecca and he went to Yathrib, he went to Medina. So when you go to Quran chapter 47 verse 13, they drove him out of Mecca, he went to Medina. And when he gathered his people, they came back. Chapter 48 verse 27. Then they came back and conquered. That is why after Quran chapter 47, Surah Muhammad, the next chapter which follows is Surah Al-Fatih, chapter of the conquest. So then the believers conquered Mecca and they became dominant. So now God is assigning the Masjid al-Haram to him so that that will serve as a place of worship for the believers. You understand? So there is nothing like you go and pray facing Kaaba. The verse doesn't say pray facing Kaaba. Neither is it talking to you and I right now. It's only talking about the prophet and the believers at his time. So understand how timeline and context work when it comes to this verse. This verse has nothing to do with you and I. Neither is it telling us to pray facing Kaaba or Mecca. There's no Kaaba in this verse. Never. The word Kaaba is not in this verse. Kaaba is mentioned in Quran chapter 5 verse 97. Right? Kaaba is not mentioned in this verse. It's just Masjid al-Haram. There's a difference between Masjid al-Haram and Bayt al-Haram. Kaaba is the Bayt al-Haram. Quran chapter 5 verse 2 and Quran chapter 5 verse 97. Masjid al-Haram is different from Kaaba. God never said you should pray facing Kaaba or Masjid al-Haram. It never says prayer there. Only a fool would think this verse has to do with the prayer or salat. There's no salat. So don't put words where God hasn't put in them. Please refrain from doing that. Yeah. Anyways. Yeah, Sister Fatima Chin says, I was ignorant once and went to touch the black stone when I went for pilgrimage. I now know better. Yeah, it's good we learn from our mistakes, right? Yes. Rachel Green says, who are the spitters in it? It is about sorcery. People who do the sorcery, the spitters. They are the envious one. When they envy you, they go and tie the knot and then they spit into knots. People who do sorcery, they do spitting. Right? So they are the sorcerers who are the evil ones. Bandwidth, you are going too extreme. Bandwidth. It says, لعنة الله موجود في مكة وسببه هو شرك وشرك فقط. Then you say, شيخ يقول أنت كافر فأنت كافر. أنا لا تأكل. Then he says, وربي كبير. Sorcery of love exists? Yes, it exists. And the sorcerers can use sorcery to separate between a man and a woman, but all happens with the permission of God. Just like the devil, Iblis, want to mislead people with the permission of God. Sorcery of love, yes, it exists. People do put people on sorcery and let a lady fall in love with them, or let a man fall in love with them. This sorcery exists, but if your faith is not strong enough, somebody can do it against you. It is only when your faith is strong enough, God can stop that from happening. And that is why those sorcery things cannot happen except with the permission of God, right? So the example is mentioned in Quran chapter 2, verse 102, right? I put this verse so that people can understand how this. Yeah, a brother asked me this question. I just remember. So now let me explain this verse, right? Concerning sorcery. I just remembered somebody asked me this question last time, right? Yeah, I'm bringing the topic on Facebook to an end soon, right? Then I might stay on TikTok a bit before I go. But I'm bringing this. This is the last question I'm going to answer. Then I move on, right? Okay, let me go here. Bandwidth. No, it doesn't contradict free will. It is only the aspect of love that the person has used sorcery for, not in every aspect, right? So it's just like, let me give you an example. If you're working in a company, it gets to a point the boss can command you to do something against your will. Even though in your heart you don't want to, you don't like it, but you do it because you are binded by a higher power, which is your boss, or based on the contract, based on you wanting something from the boss. So you are restricted and you have to do it just to gain what you want. When people are cast under, when a spell is cast on somebody, it doesn't mean all their aspect of life is under spell. No, it is only when the spell has been cast in terms of the notion of like love with the said person in question. That is when the sorcery takes place. So let me read this verse to clear some misconception here. Now, it talks about the people who were given the book, right? When you start from above, it says, and when a messenger from God came to them, confirming what was with them, a group of those who were given the book discarded the book of God behind their backs as if they did not know. Then when you go to 102, and they followed what the devils had recited during the reign of Solomon. And Solomon did not disbelieve, but the devils who disbelieved taught the people sorcery, together with what was revealed to the two angels. So the people, it is the devils who taught the people sorceries, but the angels didn't bring sorcery. So understand how these verses work. The two angels did not bring down sorcery. It is the devils who taught the people sorcery, as well as what was revealed to the two angels. So what was revealed to the two angels was not sorcery, but what the devils were teaching the people was sorcery. So people are misunderstanding this verse, thinking that the angels brought down sorcery. No. Sorcery already existed even before Solomon came on earth. It wasn't at the time of Solomon that the jinns the jinns or the demons know how to do sorcery. So remember, Moses existed before Solomon, right? So Moses existed before Suleiman and Daud. So remember that. Okay. So together with what was revealed to the two angels at Babel, right? Harut and Marut. And the two did not teach anyone. Listen carefully. Look at the condition. And the two angels did not teach anyone unless they said, we are only a trial. We are only a test, a trial. So do not disbelieve. That's what they told the people. Do not disbelieve. They didn't teach the people sorcery. It was the devils who taught people sorcery. So then you say, so they learned from them both what causes separation between a man and his wife. They learned from them both what causes separation between what? A man and his wife. And they cannot harm anyone with it except by the permission of God. Sorcery works with the permission of the devils. You understand? Sorcery works with the permission of the devils. That is sorcery. what is coming from God, you cannot use it to harm anybody except with the permission of God. Do you understand the point? And they learned what harms them and does not benefit them. Then God says, and they certainly know that whoever buys what? Sorcery, will have no positive quality in the hereafter. Because it's like cheating. It's like using a cheat code. For those who play video game, right? There are people who go to buy cheat code. They use the cheating to do certain things in the video game that you cannot do. So it's just like another form of sorcery in the video game world, right? So people who go to buy sorcery, to use sorcery for other means, they do not have any positive quality in the hereafter, right? Because they are using a cheat code and they are getting these powers from the devils. And wretched is what they trade their souls for, if only they knew. So if you go back into the verse, it tells you clearly who taught the people sorcery. In this part, it says what? And Solomon did not disbelieve, but the devils who disbelieved taught the people sorcery. Do you understand? So it is the devils who taught the people sorcery. It is not the angels who taught the people sorcery. Understand the difference here. So using this sorcery to harm other people, you understand? Yes, like Abdul Abbas knows about that. We call it glitches. These glitches, it happens in the video game world. And this is another form of cheat code, and we can call it sorcery also. Yes, they use it to do shirk as well. Yes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's enough. 2 hours, 20 minutes. I need to get some rest. Satan corrupted Bible, Torah, and more, but he can't corrupt the Quran, because this is the final revelation of God, preserved by God. That's why he makes his hadith books and mislead among. Number one, God never revealed a book called Bible. Number two, the Torah they have is not the Torah the prophets had. This is a formulated book they call Torah. Yes, the Quran is not corrupt. When we say corrupt, is to interpolate falsehood, to interpolate things which God hasn't actually said. That is corruption, to be dishonest. That's why he makes hadith books. Your question is not clear. Ahmed, Asaf, your question is not clear enough. Fatima Chin says, I haven't seen the children for a very long time. Please hug them and love to them from me. Yes, yes. I appreciate that. I'll tell them. The reason why is now I chose to be doing the program late night. So then you cannot get to see them at the time I choose to do the programs. Right? But they are there. I'll show them the video. They will see. Somebody says, no one can change the words of God. Yes, the words of God, no, you can't change them. You can only change the words of men. Yeah. Bandwidth, God bless you too. So God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. For those on Facebook and YouTube, I appreciate your presence. I'm getting exhausted. I think I don't know if I can stay on TikTok a bit again. But I think this is where I have to drop the topic for now. Today's program is based on the question and answer section. And I have videos that I've done that. Please kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, don't forget to click on the notification bell so that you get the notification whenever I come online. Right? For those who need the Great Quran, the hard copy, right? You can go to payhip.com/natsal or holvi.com/shop/natsal, right? You can get the hard copy version there. If you want to read from the website, we have the greatquran.com, and then we have the PDF available on Playbook, Google Playbook, and then soon to be on Amazon, working on it. And also the PDF version is available if you are interested. However, also this is ongoing. We have, for now, I can say we have about 40%. Yes, we have about 40% of the donations to the GoFundMe page. That is Hop Nima. We have 40% of the donations already, right? At least if we can make it 50, inshallah, then we are good to go, right? So thank you all for those who have donated. I appreciate your help. It's really, really important to help those in need. And I appreciate that, and God bless you for that, for your efforts, right? Thank you all for those who are present. Restless Native, Bandwidth, Abdul Samad, Adam, Rashid Soibrati. We have, yes, I agree. Ahmed Asaf, yes. Satan makes the hadith books, yes, and mislead among Muslims. Yes, that's correct. Abdul Abbas, Sahid Ali, Sister Alma Johnson, thank you very much also for being present, your support. Thank you all. Yes, inshallah, I'm working towards that. Inshallah, I'll be coming to the speaker's corner. Inshallah, I'll keep people informed, so you get to know when I'm coming, when I'm ready to come. Inshallah, I'll be there, right? God willing. Yes. So thank you very much, Fatima Chin. Thank you all. I appreciate that. Kindly enjoy your nights. Reshe Green, those who have answered your question. Those I didn't get the chance to answer the question, I apologize. Hopefully we get to do that next week. Kindly, you can inbox me, right? You can inbox me with your question. Send me via WhatsApp or my inbox on Facebook, and I'll find time to answer your question in the next program. I try my best to be able to respond to people the best I can. I know I cannot respond to all at the same time, but I try my best to help all those who are in need of getting closer to God, inshallah. So thank you all. Abdul Wadud Al-Hassan says, please, I want to learn more from you. I appreciate that. Yes, you can learn more. I have all the lectures you need. They are on my YouTube channel. All the lectures. I repeat, all the lectures you need, they are on my YouTube channel, right? And it's free. Go and watch it, right? Go and watch it. It's there. I have all the playlists, the debates I've done, the dialogues I've done, the rebuttals I've done, all are there. Unfortunately, most of the programs I've done in Hausa language are not on my YouTube channel, right? I have a lot of debates I did in Hausa language. I have a lot of programs, interactions I did in Hausa language. I didn't put it on YouTube yet. I'll try to do that, right? But the point is, I don't have the translations. That's why I don't put it there. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm exhausted now. I'm tired. Yeah, this is where I bring the topic to an end. I appreciate your support. Yes, so this is Babashuaib, the correctional officer. Till we meet again, enjoy your rest. Likewise, I'm getting mine, inshallah. So peace out to you all. Till we meet again. Peace.